The Exile of Erik the Red. The blood on Erik's hands was not his own. It was a dark, glistening smear against the pale wood of the longship's railing, a grim trophy from a land he would never see again. The wind howled a lament through the rigging as they sailed away from the jagged coast of Iceland, a place that had spurned him. He had killed Eyjolf the Foul for a debt of honor, and then slain Theodild's kinsmen for their insolence. The men of the Althing had judged him, their faces a pale blur of condemnation. The verdict was exile, a grim sentence for a man who knew no home but the sea and the sword. Erik stood at the prow, his broad shoulders hunched against the spray, his red beard matted and encrusted with salt. His eyes, the color of a winter sky, stared ahead at the endless churning expanse of the ocean. He was not a man to dwell on what he had lost, but on what he could still take. His rage was a cold, hard stone in his gut, a fire banked for the next shore, the next quarrel, the next life. They sailed for a week, then two. The ocean was a merciless master, tossing their small ship like a child's toy. The days blurred into a monotonous cycle of bitter cold and gray sky. The few men who had been loyal enough to follow him were silent, their faces gaunt with hunger and fear. They had traded a grim life in a hostile land for the chance of a better one, but the sea offered no guarantees. Erik watched them, not with pity, but with a cold, appraising eye. Only the strong would survive this journey. Then on the horizon, a shadow appeared. It was not the blue-gray of distant sea or the dark line of a storm. It was a solid white mass, a glimmering promise of land. As they drew closer, the shadow resolved into immense ice-caked cliffs that rose from the water like the teeth of a beast. This was the place Erik had heard of in whispers, a land of ice and silence, a place no one had dared to claim. He felt a thrill that was a dark echo of battle, the thrill of claiming a prize no other man could endure. They made landfall in a fjord, the water a mirror of the ice-blue sky. There was a shocking, profound stillness to the air. The land was not the green meadow of his dreams, but a stark, silent wilderness of rock, ice, and moss. Yet, to Erik, it was perfect. It was a land as unforgiving as he was, a place that demanded cunning and brutality. It was a land where a man like him could forge a new kingdom. He spent the first year alone, his men building a small settlement in the shelter of the fjord. He explored the coast, hunting seals and whales with a primal ferocity, his axe now a tool for survival. He discovered meadows, small patches of green that were a fleeting mockery of the land he had left behind. He saw the potential not for a simple homestead, but for a great settlement. When the time came to return and gather more followers, he had a new name for the land. He stood before the men of Iceland, his voice a low, commanding rumble. He told them of the new land he had found, a place of fertile valleys and great rivers, a land that would make them rich beyond their wildest dreams. He did not speak of the harsh cliffs or the bone-chilling cold. He simply called it Greenland, a name to lure men across the treacherous sea. It was a lie, of course, a cynical trick from a man who had long since learned that hope was a more powerful tool than truth. He had found a new home, and it was a lie forged in blood and betrayal, just as he was.